pacing in video games, or why I think these games are really fucking good, and why I think these ones aren't so good. Okay, so what is pacing? Well, Cambridge Dictionary defines pacing as the speed at which someone or something moves, or with which something happens or changes. But I think for video games, a more effective definition would be the speed at which something interesting happens. Something interesting for me can be broken down into three distinct categories. 1. An opportunity for an interesting decision occurs. Or 2. A new gameplay element is introduced. Or 3. New story elements are introduced. So, in order to show you why I think good pacing is important, I'm going to look at two games that I think are really good because their pacing is so spot on. The first of these is Persona 5 Royal, a single-player high school dungeon crawling JRPG made by Atlas. Persona 5 Royal is most likely the best game I've played this year, but I don't think it's because of its gameplay, story, or music, which are all stellar. I think the in-game calendar mechanic, in particular, is what really brings this game together. The calendar makes it so Atlas is able to control precisely when new gameplay and story elements are introduced, so there's just enough stuff to keep it interesting, but not confusing to a first-time player. But even more than this, the calendar presents a lot of interesting gameplay opportunities. This is because, as a result of the calendar, you only have a limited time to do things, which makes choosing what to do a lot more meaningful. You could hang out with your Yuji, but then you're not going to be able to get in Futaba's pants, or go eat burgers at Big Bang Burger to raise your stats. This makes the choice of what to do all the more interesting because you can't do everything like you can in other games. In Assassin's Creed or Fallout, you're eventually going to be able to unlock every perk in the skill tree, but in Persona 5, you're not going to be able to finish every confidant the first time through, which makes the choice of what to do on the day-to-day interesting, thus allowing the game to constantly present opportunities for interesting decisions to be made. The second game I want to talk about is Counter-Strike Global Offensive, which some may find surprising, but Counter-Strike is so addictive precisely because of how it's structured and paced. CSGO is broken down into 30 rounds, which can each last up to 2 minutes. On the micro level, each one of these rounds are constantly presenting you with interesting gameplay decisions. At the start of each round, you have to choose what equipment to buy, and since you're normally not going to have enough money for everything, you have to choose. Do you want to buy a better gun for more firepower, or buy more grenades for utility? Do you buy head armor, or do you risk it buying only body armor? Even when you get into the actual round, you're still making interesting gameplay decisions constantly, with trade-offs and benefits like, where do you want to go? Where do you want to use your utility? Well, you could shoot the smoke, but doing that reveals your positioning. Even deciding to shoot in the head or the body on anti-eco rounds is an interesting gameplay decision. The way death works also creates great pacing. When you die in a round, you have to wait until the next round to respawn again. This gives your decisions a lot more weight, because if you make the wrong decision and die, well, you would have to wait until the next round to play again. This results in quiet moments where players are just considering their choices and setting up, which helps to contrast against the loud moments of intense firefighting. On the macro level, the game is also well paced because of the economy system, which controls how fast the game escalates. Each game starts off slow, with both teams only having pistols to fight against each other. But as the rounds and the game goes on, each team gets more and more money, being able to afford more equipment. Even eco rounds, which occur when teams run out of money from losing and spending too much, help to vary pacing, as eco rounds usually have a different pace when compared to buy rounds. In conclusion, I think pacing is just super important and is a big reason why these games are so awesome. So, when we're talking about video games, I think pacing is just as important to talk about when compared to gameplay, music, and story.